So what we have here is, well, it's burl wood of some sort. I bought this off of eBay. The seller doesn't know what kind of a burl it is. It's pretty neat looking stuff though. It wasn't a very big tree it was growing on. But I do not recognize this species. It is very, very rotten. So it's taken a considerable amount of time to clean these pieces up to get them ready for casting. This still has the bark on it, but it is on there like it's on there. So you know what, I'm just gonna leave it. Some of these aren't too bad, some are better than others, but regardless, they should give us a pretty neat looking casting when we're done. So let's get these in the bucket and then we'll figure out what we're gonna do for epoxy. There you go. I know that's kind of hard to see, but be able to put a weight on this to hold it down because this is certainly going to float. All right, let's mix up some epoxy. This week we're going to be using deep casting epoxy from Designer Epoxy. This is going to be an extremely deep pour, so to even have a shot at this not thermal cracking, you have to use a deep casting epoxy of some sort, and Designer Epoxy makes one of the best. There's the copper that I want to use this week, and I know last week I said that we're going to do a copper themed project. Well, copper pigment anyway. So sorry to those that may have felt duped. And we're going to throw some Hypershift in this as well, which should really give us a lot of different colors. I must say, I really like this color. The Hypershift gives it a real metallic sheen too. Really like it. I'm assuming this is going to be the first of 3 1.5 liter buckets. Yep. Bring it back when I'm ready for the next one. This will bring it to 3 liters. Took a little bit off of this piece that we're going to use to hold the casting down. The other way, it wasn't allowing anything to flow around it, so now we've got a space for it to flow around it. Hopefully this will do it. This is another 1.5 liters. Holy. Guess not. Okay, this is it. This is another 1.5 liters. I'm not going to give it any more than this. And I know that you may think that this is a lot of resin, but these pieces are really punky, and I'm assuming that they are going to drink this up. Now, this is an overpour, a really, really large overpour, actually. So I fully expect this to crack. Hoping that it doesn't though. But that's 8 inches. Almost 8.5 inches. I've got the temperature in my clean room turned down, so this is probably going to go off on its own and it's not going to need a heat source like it ordinarily does. Deep cast needs 70 to 75 degrees Fahrenheit for it to start to work, to set. So with this large volume, it's probably going to set quickly, but hopefully not too quickly where it doesn't crack. And I'm absolutely loving the look of that. That to me is really cool. A real metallic look. Awesome. Can't wait to get into this. But if the thermal cracks, well, hey, we know how to fix that too. See you in 72 hours, possibly sooner. Oh my goodness, that's heavy. Well, it is 2 days after the pour. I actually opened this up yesterday, but I had some other stuff on the go, so I wasn't able to address it. But the resin was almost at a cured state then. So we're probably going to be dealing with some thermal cracks. So I figured I'd pull this out at day 2 and see if we need to fill those cracks before turning tomorrow. Anyway, let's get this out and see what kind of a mess we're into. Huh. She's loose in the bucket. Imagine. That resin, it's crazy looking. Wild. Alright, let's see if we can pop this off and see if there's any cracks on the very top. Yeah. Good luck with that. And there you have it. See them? Yeah, I knew it. There's probably a good chance that they run underneath of this too, so I'm gonna have to grind this off, and then we'll have to figure out what we're going to use for resin to repair this. What color anyway? I don't see cracks anywhere else except for on the very top, so I don't care about lifting this up off the bottom of the bucket. So let's mix up some resin and figure out what color we're going to use. So to repair these cracks, we're going to use the Pro Series, again from Designer Epoxy. This is a good resin for this because it will be ready to go the next day, and it's nice and thin. Ideal for this situation. All right, so there's our copper color. Now, of course, we could go with white, but we just did white. Yellow? Oh, maybe. This is Bora Bora Blue. I don't think that goes at all. Here's a Caribbean Blue. Or we've got Cherry Red. Man, I don't know. I don't like any of them. except for the white, maybe. I don't know. I'll have to give it some thought and get back to you. I think we'll just use the Pearl Gold. I know that it's not going to show up as nice as the liquid, but I don't know. Like everything else, to me, kind of clashes. So if I mix it strong enough, it should give us some sort of a, kintsugi method. Anyhow. So if you've been around a while, you know that I do kind of like contrasting colors. But in this case, I just thought I'd go for a safer color, one that would blend in nicely with casting. All right, so this is 18 ounces. And what I think we'll do is throw this in the vacuum chamber to make sure that that crack is completely filled in. So that's up next. As we watch the vacuum chamber do its work here, and of course this is removing air and causing, when the vacuum is released, for the fluid to be drawn into those cracks. And that's the whole main purpose of me doing this. So crown galling, or crown gall, causes rough, woody termite-like galls to form on roots, trunks, and occasionally branches of many different trees and shrubs. I just don't really recognize this species. It did come from the southern US, I believe, but I've seen it on trees up here as well. Anyway, I will say that it makes some pretty nice casting material. But yeah, if anybody has any idea what it might be, let me know in the comments. All those bubbles you see, I believe, are coming from the wood and not actually any cracks. Pretty sure that we got all the cracks filled in. I'll let this run for about another 10 minutes or so, and then we'll shut it off and have a look at it. All right, so that's been 10 minutes. As you can see, there's still lots of air coming out of it. Again, I believe that that's all coming from the wood. So I'm just going to release the vacuum and put this in the pressure pot, and see you guys tomorrow. She sure is pretty. With the magic of video editing, it is the next day. Let's see, well, I don't think we're gonna have too much sitting on the top of this, but anyway, let's see how difficult it is to get out today. Literally just fell out yesterday. Well, we got a little bit on the top here. Can't wait to tear into this. Should be pretty interesting. Cool. Not going to get any better than that. As is the case with all of these pieces, we got to strip away the excess epoxy and, you know, get down to wood and epoxy and then go from there. Now, I had intended on this being a hollow form from the start, but this certainly could have been a lidded dish, and I have an idea for next week's project as well. But this being a hollow form, as soon as I stripped away the excess resin here and got a look at it, I'm like, there's no way that this is not going to be an artistic piece of some sort. So of course, a hollow form is in that category, and it's funny because I see it in the comments every now and then, you know, like, what do you do with a hollow form? Well, a hollow form is a piece of art. And looking at that resin, I'm like, oh yeah, like this is going to be absolutely fantastic when it's all done and polished. So, you know, you could put dried flowers into something like this, but you know, this is meant to be no different than a painting hanging on the wall in your house. It's more on the artistic side of the house, and it's just a thing of beauty. So, you know, everything doesn't have to have a use, and I guess you could argue that art, looking at it, there's your use. But anyway, this is an absolutely incredible piece, and I'm so stoked to actually be using a lot of those Hypershift pigments right now. And this copper pigment from Designer Epoxy is absolutely fantastic as well. We'll be seeing more of this in the future. That is for sure. So with that excess epoxy sitting on the top of this, I'm saying, okay, I'm gonna turn a tenon because I plan on reversing this and putting a glue block on the bottom of it, and then we'll make a call on if I'm going to keep that gold collar or not. In the end, I do get rid of probably the majority of it, as you would have seen in the thumbnail. But you know, it's at this stage I wasn't sure because I left the gold base and the gold top may have matched. So, but in the end, I thought it was best to mute it a little bit by sanding away most of it. But I think that I made the right call on it because it ties in with the cracks on the very top of this. This may be an interesting video. This is kind of what you go through until you get down to wood and resin because it sends off these long stringers and you just, a lot of times you have a hard time seeing what you're doing. But anyway, and for those who are curious, when the shavings land on you, they're warm. So in the wintertime when it's cold in the workshop, that's actually pretty nice. But it does also, when it lands on the back of your neck, kind of feel like spider webs. So if you're not a fan of spider webs, turning resin may not be for you. But in the end, it allows you to be so creative, and I will put up with any of the stuff. And there, I don't usually show this because the camera's panned in really close, but that's me just kind of rubbing my hand and looking at the piece and saying, okay, if I cut this back, what kind of a profile am I going to be left with? And a lot of times I'll hold my hand on there to that profile. So that's what I'm doing, and you'll see that here 2 or 3 times as you watch this video. So I have some exciting news from Designer Epoxy. They're going to be opening a distributor in the state of Florida, which means faster shipping, especially for the lower half of mainland USA. Same great price. You still be able to use code InlayGem to get 10% to get your 10% discount off of all of the orders. The address and location will be revealed here shortly. I don't think everything is all set up yet, but that's what Designer Epoxy is going to be doing here in the very near future. So that's very exciting, especially the faster shipping is probably one of the big things. So now that they have a U.S. Distributor, that's going to be really cool. And for the folks that are down in the bottom part of the U.S., you'll be able to get your epoxy a lot faster. So at this stage, I've got a rough idea in my head as to what I want, but I'm not, of course, 100% set on anything. I know that I want to expose more of the wood. At the bottom of this piece, where it was basically an entire branch that ran through from one side to the other, one side is totally exposed, and one side there's a little bit of epoxy covering the other end of it. And if I figured that if I had stripped more off the bottom, that it would have kind of thrown the shape off, and I don't think that it would have looked good. So that's why when you're looking at the finished piece, you're going to see some parts of it actually are covered on the very end of that, and then the other piece is completely exposed. But you know, it's sometimes you got to just kind of roll with the punches and figure that, okay, if I do this, what's it going to look like, and if I don't do this, what's it going to look like? And anyway, I had exposed enough of it, and I figured that was good enough. But in a perfect world, both of those ends would have been exposed to balance the piece out, because I do like balanced pieces. But the other thing that I always try to strive to do is make sure that you've got the right wood and epoxy combination. There, the kintsugi method is showing up. The reason why it works this week with the gold is because the casting itself is dark, so I'm pretty happy about that. But you know, having that wood and resin or epoxy ratio is important, but sometimes form and design is going to win out over that. I'm not going to, if I've got a really pleasing form, I'm not going to whittle that down to expose more wood so that things are more balanced, if you're following. That's a go, no-go gauge that you seen me use earlier. And, you know, I wanted this tenon to be fairly large because I wasn't really shooting for a small opening so much on this piece. So that's why I'm using that. I need to make sure that it's going to fit into the chuck correctly, and that's just a quick reference to do so. If you haven't got one, you should make one for each one of the jaw sets that you have for your chucks. Here I'm prepping the bottom for the glue block. After I basically get this whittled down to a slight concave surface, I'll hit it with some 60 grit, and then we'll get our glue block that's been dipped in hot melt glue on the bottom of this piece. So after about 10 minutes, then we're fine to trim this back, and I'm using the 5/8 bowl gouge from David Ellsworth to do that. And it's important when you cut these tenons, and this is mainly for the new people, that when you reverse this and it goes into your chuck, that the top of the jaws is resting on the bottom of the casting and not kind of suspended. That's where you're going to get a lot of vibration. So I highly recommend that when this goes into the chuck, that the tenon is shorter than the depth of the jaws. That way the bowl will be steadier when it's reversed. Now that we're down to epoxy and wood, you don't get those streamers like you were seeing earlier. And, you know, to be honest with you, that is really the only irritating thing that I find about working with epoxy and Burl pieces on a lathe. The other thing is slow. You have got to take your time when you're working with these pieces, or you'll get massive amounts of chip out. But, you know, every time I turn the lathe off and look at this thing, I'm like, man, this is going to be one of my best pieces, if not my best piece, for sure. It's also going to be interesting to see what people think about the profile or the form of this piece. I actually really like this form, so it'd be interesting to see what people say about that. And of course, by leaving a comment down below, you'll be entered into the giveaway at 105,000 subscribers. So please do that. I'm just using the Phoenix there just to get up underneath that collar that I'm leaving, that I'm still not sure if it's going to be there or not, but Phoenix does a good job doing that. And then you'll see me switch back to the number 3 Hercules. Well, what do you think so far? Not 100% sold on this yet. This is a form that I don't think we've done. I might dish this in a little bit more. I don't know. I might leave it. It is fatter here. It tapers off on the base, so I think that that's cool. What I want to do is get some denatured alcohol and wipe this down so we can get a look at this. I think this resin is going to be absolutely spectacular. Oh, yes, sir. How crazy good is that? Wow. Yeah. I'm glad that we can see kind of the cracks being filled in here too. It's popping on this piece where it didn't on the other ones. It's crazy the different colors in there. Very, very awesome. The bottom side ain't bad either. All right, well that's it for me today. We'll see you tomorrow and we'll take out the inside. So lately in most of these hollow forms I've been using 1 1/8 to start the drilling process here, Forstner bit. And these are actually 2 new Forstner bits. I do find once they get dull, they can actually smoke and burn the epoxy. So best to sharpen them if you need to. In this case, I had a few Forstner bits missing out of my current kit, so a little while back I bought a new kit. Anyway, after that, switched to the 2 3/8 size, and I pretty much just stick to that right to the very bottom. You'll see me have to put an extension in here because I can't reach that far in with this substandard tailstock that's on this lathe. But we won't talk about that. We are all set up and ready for hollowing. This is the one-way captive system from oneway.ca. I've modified my laser rig so that it now goes above the steady rest. So the only thing that we're going to miss is when it goes over this area right here, that of course the laser is going to hit on the top of it, not on the bowl or whatever we're doing, but that's no big deal. This is a laser that you fit into a gun. And I will put the Amazon link down below. There's a little set screw that comes with the system. This is the laser that was in there, and this was actually quite easy to modify. So I just lengthened this rod, no big deal. And where this sat down inside of the housing, I drilled out that housing to 1 inch in diameter, and that allowed the laser to slip through the opening, and then tighten the set screw here, and that's it. I'm hoping that it's not going to need any more than that, but if it does, I'll put another set screw here. I'll drill and tap another hole, and but it's in there pretty strong. Like I don't see it moving, but I guess we'll put it to the test. Anyway, that's the little step drill that I used. You can get those pretty much anywhere, and I'm hoping to stick with a large boring bar with this extension. We should be able to do a form like this, but again, we'll see. All right, let's get to it. So I'm glad to get that off my list of things to do. It's been bothering me for quite some time, but I finally was able to find some time in my schedule to make these modifications. And like I said, it was actually fairly easy. So, if you're having the same issue, and I should mention that for the new people, the reason why I modified this setup is because the laser was hitting on the steady rest, on the top of the steady rest. So by lengthening the support, it now clears all that, and happy days. There is still a significant area where the wheels are running and where the width of that steady rest is above the casting that you see here. But, it's at least I'm able to use it all the time now. And as long as you've got your thicknesses on either side of that area where the laser is going to be missing on the side of the hollow form, then you should be able to blend it in and not encounter too many issues. Hopefully. But anyway, it did work good. Actually, it worked great. I never had to tighten the laser once. And the dot from the laser itself is maybe not quite as pinpoint as the other laser was, but it certainly is brighter. And the other benefit of the laser that goes on the gun here is that it's rechargeable. So that's another big bonus. So this is one of those panned away views, if you will, aerial view. And I was actually really surprised at how many people really liked the views when it's panned out like this, so you can see body position and this kind of stuff. So I certainly will incorporate a lot more of these in upcoming videos, along with the close-up stuff. But anyway, this will give you an indication of what it's like working with one of these rigs. When I first go into the hollow form, I like to work in the upper area. Just basically open up some space so that the shavings can collect in there. It's important that those shavings don't get too packed in there, because what can happen is it will actually grab the bar and lift it up. So you definitely don't want that to happen. So there you can see the laser on the front, and I've got to adjust it so that, I don't know what it's sitting at now, probably 3/4 of an inch, just working my way down. And there you can't see it anymore because it's being blocked by the wheels and by the steady rest itself. But you can see it on the very front, and essentially when the dot elongates and falls off of the piece you're working on, then you've achieved the thickness that you've got it set at. Now, one of the things that I do find challenging with these rigs is getting that bottom nice and flat. And if you watch my right arm, it's basically up against the back support. And then I just kind of lock it in place like you would with your finger on the gouge running on the tool rest. And then that way, as you swing across, it's not going to dip in or dip out. And then you'll have a nice flat bottom, which is a bonus because the bottoms in these things sometimes can be quite hard to sand. Here I've switched to the bent bar. I just wasn't, as I was working out thinner and thinner, I was a little worried about it. That teardrop cutter is quite large in size, where the cutter that's on the bent arm and the double bent arm is a lot smaller and less grabby. So that's why I switched to that, just to finish it out. All right, getting ready to do some sanding here. I thought I would try and show you this. It's cut fairly clean, but I realize you guys just can't really see a whole lot in there. Little bit of chip out to deal with, but you know, it's not too bad. Should sand up pretty easy. That's next. So this was a suggestion from the comments, and this is the great thing about the comments down below. If you've got the time to read the comments, sometimes it's really worth your while, especially for the new wood turners. And sometimes, you know, it's so obvious, it's right in front of your face that you just don't think about it. But yeah, by cutting a smaller pipe and sliding it over the shaft of that, I don't have to wear a glove anymore, and it doesn't get hot. So that's that's the other big bonus as well. Anyway, you guys are awesome. Again, there's lots of knowledge out in YouTube land. Thanks. All right, so for the inside of this piece, I'm not sure if I'll do it on the outside, but for the inside, I definitely want to do a resin coat. And this is Art Cast, 6 ounces of it, which should be plenty. I'll throw that in, move it around, and then dump it. Put this upside down for about 10-15 minutes, and then flip it back over. And when I flip it back over, there's some tiny little spots that need to be filled in. So I'll just hit them with that, and it should be good to go for tomorrow. All right, well, that's it. See you guys in there tomorrow. This is going to be nice. Really nice. I knew that there was going to be lots of bubbling from the remaining burl that's on the inside of this. So sure enough, there was some bubbles. So I'm just going to sand this back. I should mention that it was sanded from 60 to 220 the day before. And now I'm sanding again with 220 just to knock down those bubbles and to get it ready for its next resin finish that's going to be on the inside of this. And at this time, I decided to cut down the collar a little bit. There was just too much gold there. I just wanted a little bit left behind, and you'll see me sand that up a little bit later on too. Just to, I don't know, it was just too much. I wanted to leave hints of it behind so that it would blend in with the cracks that I'd filled. So I think that was the right decision. But by all means, leave a comment down below and let me know what you think. Should I have left it, or is it a good thing I took it off? So all I'm going to do here is just take some really light cuts on the outside of this piece, being very careful not to get a catch, because getting a catch right now would be quite devastating depending on how deep that catch went. You may have to alter your profile. As you can see, it went a little bit out of round in the, there's been a couple of days where it was in the heat curing up. So that's to be expected. Again, there's a lot of tension built up in that burl, and then when you relieve that tension, you certainly can get some movement, but it was very, very minimal, that's for sure. At this stage, I decided to take down the foot a little bit too. The foot to me was just a little bit too large. I think that was the right decision as well. As for the outside, it was sanded from 60 to 800 using the 3.5-inch nipple discs, just like I did on the inside. I don't know if you noticed it for the inside, but that's a sanding pad that's been ground down to probably about 1.5 inches. And then that way, when you wrap the 3.5-inch discs around it, you can actually do quite a bit of side sanding with them. That's the EEE buffing compound from the Be All buffing system. That is the last step that I want to do here before we hit it with the denatured alcohol and get our first coat finish on. The best part. All right, so for the outside of this, we're going to use Waterlux Gloss. Well, oh my, oh my. Wow. That resin is absolutely incredible. The waterfalls around the burls. That's a really cool little burl. Just spectacular. I'll do another resin coat on the inside and it will be done. I'm surprised to see that that's not absorbing more than it is. This here looks like a little demon face with two eyes. If I can get the light to hit that right, you'll be able to see it. Wow. The hyper shift in there with that is just crazy. Let's not touch that. Wow. All right, we'll see you tomorrow for the second coat. She is a beauty. This will be mostly for the new people. Between each coat of finish, I buffed with the EEE buffing compound and then use the denatured alcohol to clean the piece. If you don't clean the piece, you could encounter all kinds of issues. I couldn't get the buff inside of the opening, so that was 4-0 steel wool. Sometimes you just got to use it, and there's the denatured alcohol. Good morning. This is the second coat of Waterlux Gloss. Well, there it is in its second coat. I'm going to tell you something that the lighting is not doing this thing justice. This is really, really cool, and what I'm seeing in the camera and what I'm seeing in person, it's almost twice as strong. The shimmer, the different colors, like right there. Wow, very cool. Still have yet to do the second coat on the inside, but this is looking like it's it. I don't think it's going to need another coat. It's covered really, really well. Could be my number one piece. It is way up there. See you when we're doing the bottom. So that's the 8-inch drum that I have for my vacuum chucking system here from One Way Manufacturing. I decided to take the foot down with the 5-inch bowl gouge from David Ellsworth. And I do a bit of work here on the bottom, but it's not long before I switch to the Hercules, just to get a really nice smooth profile before we proceed to sanding. On the bottom of this piece, it was sanded from 120 to 800. There's in dimple disc now. Again, there is a link in the description for all of the products that you see here, including your discount codes. They're all down in the description. This piece was a good candidate for the engraver, so I decided to go ahead and do that. Well, that's going to do it for the video. Let's finish this up and talk about this beautiful hollow form. Well, what do you think about this beautiful hollow form? This is definitely in my top 3, could be number 1. Absolutely beautiful piece. It's too bad that we don't know what this burl is, or gall, if you will. Whatever it is, it's awesome. There's the very base. No finish on it yet, because it's Thursday and I'm running out of time. Still need a coat of finished resin on the inside of this piece, and it will be ready to go to its new home, and this piece is sold. Now, the dimensions on this are 9 inches across and 6 inches tall, and that is 25 centimeters by 15 centimeters. And as far as thickness is concerned, it's probably 1/4 of an inch at the top here, and it goes down to about 1/2 inch in the base. I prefer to make these this way. They're certainly more stable when they're sitting on a table. So that's 6.5 millimeters to 13 millimeters. And she's hefty. This is 4 pounds, 10 ounces, or 2.1 kilograms. So that's a pretty hefty turning. And I love it. I love hefty turnings. And this is beautiful. That hyper shift combined with the copper is really awesome. When I do the rotating footage at the end, hopefully we're going to see all those different colors in there. It's a little tough to see here, but hopefully we'll see that. I was told to mix hyper shift with dark colors. So here's the copper. I do plan on doing a black pearl one at some point with the hyper shift, and it should look really cool. I did actually throw a light on this, and you can't even see through it. It's the epoxy is tinted so strongly that it's hardly letting any light through it. The other thing too is the kintsugi method, where we repaired them cracks. If I can get that, to show up, I think I think that color is perfect for this. It's not boom in your face. It kind of blends in. The collar, or the very top's not really a collar. The top with little hints of gold in it certainly helps out too. On the bottom, it just didn't look good. So that's why I sanded it all off. But anyway, that'll need a couple coats of finish on it, and it will be ready to go to its new home. I'm gonna set this down. Don't forget to put a comment down below to be entered into my giveaway at 105,000 when we get there. And I do ship worldwide, so it doesn't matter to me where you are in the world. If your name is selected in the draw, then I will ship it at my expense. Along with that, Designer Epoxy is going to be giving away a 3-gallon kit at 105,000 as well. So please put designer epoxy down in the comments. And that of course is only for mainland USA, continental USA, and Canada. Sorry, the rest of the world, we can't accommodate you. Next week, we are going to be doing a lilac themed project. So please come on back for that. And I just want to thank everybody for the really kind comments from the unboxing of my play button that I got from YouTube for my 100,000 subscriber giveaway, or my 100,000 subscribers. Really awesome. YouTube's a fantastic community, and there was a lot of really awesome comments. So thank you so much. And along with that, the people that have donated money to me as well. So thank you so much for that to help cover the cost of my new workshop. All right, well, that's it. Take care, stay safe. Don't forget the bell. Please share my videos with your friends. And that's the largest way for me to build my presence here on YouTube. Share my videos. All right, well, that's it. See you next week.